Hello, career thought leaders. Good to see you here today. We are going to be talking about how we take care of ourselves and our clients with all the things going on in our global space right now. So, we have colleagues and I'm sure clients in Europe dealing with the war and the challenges that are going on there. Challenges just seems like the wrong word, and we have colleagues in Australia and clients in Australia who are experiencing massive floods. There's just so much going on in the world on top of COVID and people still struggling with the effects of that, with losing someone, and with all the uncertainty, economic, health, you name it, it's there. We know that this has been true all the time. It's heightened and there's definitely more going on now, but we never know what's going on with someone. And we always have that cliche out there that we don't know what someone's dealing with, so we need to be kind. But I find that it gets harder for us, every one of us, to do that when we are also under stress, right? We are under stress as a career services provider, our coaches are under, our clients are under stress. There's just so much going on, and we tend to forget or to perhaps feel like we don't need to be kind because we're going through things too, and that just escalates situations to a place where it's not helpful. So we're going to talk about how we can best serve our clients while also maintaining our boundaries, because it's not about giving them everything or letting them walk all over us either, because that in the long run doesn't work as well. Let's talk about this. We've had some great comments on my LinkedIn post from yesterday about this topic, and I also have some content to share with you from one of our colleagues who talks about trauma informed work and has a new book out. So we'll also find that so that you can get that or share that if you're interested. And Tina Everett is just brilliant, and I'm excited to read her book. I haven't gotten the chance yet, but I'm excited to do that as soon as well. So let's talk about what this looks like and what it means and what we're talking about here. So I'm actually just going to pull up this LinkedIn post because it's the easiest way to walk you through this and show you some of the comments that people were sharing there in addition to the post itself. So there's so much going on. As I said, I don't even have the right words to talk about all of the things our clients and we are experiencing, and maybe have a direct impact on us, but the mental weight of that is there for all of us. We know it's going on. We feel helpless in some ways and want to have a way to help, but also need to pay our bills, deal with inflation that's going on in our own households, and how are we going to manage all of that? So, here are just some thoughts that I shared at the beginning. One, to set those clear boundaries. Be clear up front what the process will look like, what your deadlines are, how many revisions they'll get, etc. I didn't put this on here, but I'd also be having conversations with people. I've been recommending this, especially to resume writers forever, because resume writing can be done without without you talking to the client. They could fill out a form and you can do it that way. But I've noticed that when people do it that way, they tend to get more pushback. Why? Because you don't necessarily have that rapport and your client doesn't feel heard. In coaching, we're having those conversations. They still think it's important to focus on that rapport building up front, ask some of those questions that maybe you wouldn't ask. And we've got some colleagues that have shared some thoughts, so we'll dive into that more in a minute. But just to be clear up front, what the process is going to look like, what your expectations are, how they cancel, how they reschedule, how much advance notice you need for those things, etc. Having it all laid out and having some automated reminders. So, those 24-hour reminders, the 1 hour reminder, things that can help people show up a little bit better to your sessions, to your meetings, so that they can remember, right? I don't know about you, but I'm usually a pretty organized person. And I'm having trouble remembering things. I'm having trouble because there's just so much mental weight going on. And your clients, you can help them with some of that by setting up some of those automated tools. Then, of course, we just want to be kind. and communicate our boundaries. This doesn't have to be either or. So when someone says they need more time or they need to reschedule, I'm happy to reschedule. I know there's a lot going on right now. And in the future, we do have a 1 hour cancellation policy, probably not 24-hour cancellation policy or whatever your policy is, so that you are reminding them of the boundaries, but still being kind and flexible. When you do the reminder, they, oh yeah, and at least they know that they're not stepping all over you. You're giving them this pass because of what's going on right now, and you don't need to, make a big deal out of that. But this is what we're doing. Typically we have a 3-day turnaround for that. However, there's so much going on. I'm happy to move that to move that deadline. What seems reasonable for you? And you can involve them in that collaborative deadline setting. That might help you not have to push it again if you ask them what seems reasonable for them. And then also picking up the phone when there seems to be a rub. I'm not the best at this. You get busy, you think, oh, I'll just shoot people an email. Then it's 10 emails back and forth, and you ruin the relationship in some ways because you've put more interest and put more effort into it, made them put more effort into it in a bad way. Pick up the phone, give them a call, even a voicemail or a visual, a video can show that, hey, I'm here, I'm really paying attention to you. And when they hear your voice instead of reading an email, they get those nuances of what you really mean and what you're really thinking versus just in the email where you can't get that. So if you're joining me here today, feel free to say hello. I love seeing where you're joining from and what you're seeing with your clients. If you have some other phrases that you would add, if you want to drop those, even if you're watching the replay, love to see some other ways that you're addressing these concerns with your clients. I'm just going to scroll down here to some of the colleague comments. We aren't therapists. Thank you, Melanie, for commenting here. We aren't therapists, but we do have an opportunity to listen to people, and they want someone to listen. And oftentimes, when they're pushing back on something or they're frustrated, it's not necessarily about us or about that assessment or about the resume and these 3 words. It's really about, can you listen to me? I'm anxious, I'm nervous. Are you going to be there to help me process some of that? And then I was just saying, confirming the phone and voice recordings, that those are so helpful when we pick that up and do that. Maureen shared some great thoughts from Dr. Bonnie Henry, that we've all got a lot going on, and the trauma informed care, which we're going to switch over to my slides here in just a second and look at some of the insights from Tina Everett around that. And then also Julie just saying that there's more emotion, and we have to be ready for that emotion and make sure that we are not having our own emotion come out in a way that's not helpful for the session. We're human beings, we're going to have emotions, but we don't want to make it about us, and we want to be thoughtful about that and be in the right space before we have these tough conversations, so that we're not bringing our emotion into it in a way that's not helpful. Assume there's a good reason, of course. There's something going on. Be there, listen, provide an opportunity for that person to share if they want, or just to say now is not a good time. They don't have to share, obviously, and it just may not be a good time. And then Tom was saying that he's been using the voice messenger and messaging in Messenger. So I thought, let's just pop over there. We're already in LinkedIn. When you go to Messenger, if you haven't played with that yet, let me just go to something. So Steve Dalton and I've been chit-chatting about getting him on my radio show. You can use the record button, and on your phone, you've got voice and video record buttons. Try those out with a friend or a colleague where it's safe first, and then you might send those back and forth to people. I find that LinkedIn messaging is just completely out of control, right? There's no filing, there's no system. So I probably would not do this with a client necessarily, because it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. You can use the same types of tools to send a message via email, but have it be video, or maybe you've got something set up with your clients where you're doing video, or simply give them a call and leave them a voicemail. It does the same thing. They get to hear your voice, the concern in it that you're a human and you want to be human with them. I'm just going to pop over really quick to Tina Everett and her profile. I'm going to show you some of her points, and she did an interview on my radio show a while ago. But Tina's been promoting her new book, so Cracked Open just launched, and I'd really recommend that if you're dealing with clients that are going through grief and loss, or if you yourself have gone through it, she has some excellent points and that brilliant combination of practical, actionable things that you can do, as well as the kind of spiritual underlying pieces that we've got to pay attention to for ourselves and others. So I'd recommend checking that out as well. The whole point here is that we want to think about connecting with people and offering all of us a little bit more grace right now. So, hello, good to see you from Chicago. Thank you for joining us, Celeste. Hi, Norma. Love to hear if you're seeing some of this with your clients, if you're changing what you're doing and how you're interacting as well. Doing a lot of work on the phone. When something's not right, address it and maybe change that time, give people that flexibility. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Norma. Love that. So I did want to share just a few, well, actually just one slide. So I put these together for our latest Career Industry Authority call. So this is a group of individuals that gets together regularly, once or twice a month, depending on people's schedules. And we keep you up with the new and the next in careers. If you're interested in that, let me know and we will get you the information. But in this call, I put together just a few tips from this session that Tina came in and did that interview on the radio show. I'll drop this in the chat as well, but you can copy it down if you want to. Career Confidant, every Monday, we have a guest or a conversation of some sort around a career topic. And Tina came on and she gave you 30 minutes worth of content. I'm just going to give you the little highlights. But our traps as career professionals, as coaches, helping professionals, is that we tend to want to fix it. And, there's jokes about this, and usually they're around men, but we as helping professionals do it as well, where we want to help the person move forward, take that step, um, you know, solve that career problem. And that may not be the biggest problem right now. So, is there a way we can bring that curiosity and collaboration? They are going to have to move forward and they're going to have to fix whatever they need fixed. So, we are the collaborator, the question asker, and we can be part of that co creation. This also happens in the career space because we tend to be pushed into sometimes taking that expert status. Someone is coming to us for resume advice. They're coming to us for career advice, and we think, oh, we need to give them advice to be of value. And oftentimes that backfires because advice is really only as good as it fits in terms of implementation for the other person. And our guide as a coach or a consultant really is to help people figure out how they're going to implement what they probably already know they should have done. We give some great advice that maybe they hadn't heard before, but a lot of times they've heard these things and they're coming to us to help them implement, to collaborate, to ask the hard questions, to move forward and co create with them. And not necessarily, although they might think they need us to be the expert, if we slip into that role, we can oftentimes create a power dynamic that may play into trauma depending on what type of trauma they're coming to us with. And then we might get overly involved, and this might happen especially now with emotions running high, where we're shocked at what happened or we've got too much sympathy towards them in terms of what might be going on in their life. And we are not there to treat the trauma unless we're trained in counseling. We are their coach, we're their guide, we're helping them with this certain aspect of whatever it is they've contracted with us to help them with. And we really want to guide the conversation in a way that fits for our process together and our goals together, reset with them what they want out of our work together, and also have referral partners on hand that we can bring into the conversation if they are needing some support in another area. So if they're dealing with depression, if they're dealing with anxiety that is being triggered right now, do they have someone else that they work with those on? Is there someone else on their team? Who else do they go to for those support systems? And in, all of our intake forms, and I'm sure if you're coaching, you have this on your intake form, we're asking people about their support system. You're asking them, what does that look like? Who's your support crowd? And then maybe even who are those people that aren't supporting you right now? And what are the challenges around that? Because when we know those things, we can help that person build strategies around it. We're not going to be able to solve it, but we can help them create those strategies around it. So when we think about, kind of that trauma informed work, I would listen to this session from Tina and check out that work that Maureen McCann was referencing as well, because there's a body of work in this area, and hopefully we'll get to bring an expert in. Been trying for a while to bring an expert in to do a webinar for career thought leaders around this topic, because it is important for us to recognize this and to meet our clients where they're at, but also to not go beyond our competence, because that might cause more challenges in our relationship with the client than it is helpful. When we think about kind of working with the client and helping them move forward during these times, one of the other things that I'm seeing is that people are struggling, and this started in 2020, the article from Harvard Business about the existential crisis. And the existential crisis really continues. People don't know what's important. They're reevaluating what's important. They're having kind of that near death experience where now I'm going to maybe overemphasize some things, and I've got to swing back into that middle where I don't like balance, but it's that there's a trade off for everything. And I'm figuring that out right now. How much can I push my career back for my family and spending time at home? How much money do I really need to make? And what does that mean at work and outside of work? People are still grappling with all of these big questions and these big challenges. And, I know you've heard me talk about this, and I talk about it because I actually have experienced it, that when we're dealing with those big questions, we really need a center. I was talking to one of our people that just signed up for the Certified Personal Branding Strategist course, and she was saying, I'm having trouble keeping my core story because I've got a lot going on. I'm working a job, I'm starting a business, I've got all these different things that I do in my business and for my job, and I find myself telling a different story every time. Well, that just adds to this feeling of not having a home and not knowing who we are and not knowing how we operate. And the power of people really knowing who they are, we underestimate it, and we also overestimate that people already know this. I mean, this is the person I was talking to is in this space, right? They're a coach, and yet we all lose that sense of center. We all need that opportunity to reconnect with it, and that's why we do the work that we do in the career space. We know how important it is for people to really know who they are and to be able to reconnect with that and use it in their work, but also in their life. And so I'll just bring this up one more time because we start the class on Thursday. It is officially your last chance to join us for the Certified Personal Branding Strategist program. And that's what this program is all about, just helping people get that depth and understanding of who they are. You, as a coach, you get to go through it. So here's our little process, right? You get to go through it. You get to think about, how am I going to help others go through it to really define who I am? And I put a little bit of an outline, more of an outline in here, just in terms of what we cover in the sessions, and getting some tools to do this work to help people go deep and understand who they are, and then putting it all back together. So what does that mean for how you want to show up? Because there's that internal piece of who you are, and then that external piece of how you want to show up. And what do you want people to see about those internal pieces? It can't be fake, it's still got to be authentic, but we do get to determine the language and how we communicate that story to connect with our target audience. And then you're going to get some opportunity to put all those pieces together in a positioning statement and a brand statement, and get some feedback from Susan Critton, our amazing instructor, author of Personal Branding for Dummies. She's going to help you work through some clarity in those statements, demonstrating the process that then you can use for your clients. So I hope you take the opportunity to check that out. If you haven't, I know some of you that watch are certified personal branding strategists already, and we look forward to adding another crew to that community here starting on Thursday. I will be back next week on this channel, but I'm also going to be starting to do some things on my personal LinkedIn. I've got live access on my personal LinkedIn as well, and do a little bit more around business building and practice building on my personal page. So we'll see you either over there or over here next week. And thank you all for joining us.